the Jags shoot into this crucial series with the #1 ranked Georgia College Bobcats. We last left you. The Jags turned the diamond on the infield to a diamond of fire and scorched across 17 runs in the victory last night, or Wednesday night rather, in the crosstown game between Augusta University and Payne. See if they can carry that hot streak into this weekend, and is against a very, very hot ball club coming in to today's affair. Georgia College, as we mentioned, has the #1 rank in the Peach Belt Conference with 22-2 in conference play and 31-8 overall. Not only that, but to give you a little bit of taste of what you'll see here this evening. In terms of the Peach Belt Conference leaders in the batting average department, Georgia College owns 4 of the top 6 spots in the batting average batting department. As you will see here tonight, Nate Schmall, who has a 423, tied with his hombre and Garrett Green. And then Wesley Womack is not far behind in that third place with 418. And then Logan Maddox rounds out the 6 out of that top 6 with 404. So the Jags have a tough road to haul this weekend. But as we saw with Payne, they can light up the diamond at any given moment. So with that said, I want to bring in my broadcast partner, Robert Ambrose. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, Blake. How about you, most importantly?
Absolutely wonderful. And this is going to be a series worth keeping an eye on and tuning into, because Augusta definitely is on the right track coming into this series. You want to see if they can extend it through. And also, I want to mention as well, in the pregame, we have a couple of guys on the Georgia College team that is returning to Augusta, Georgia, and into Lake Augusta Stadium. The previous coach before Coach Chris Howell, if you're ever wondering what's happened to Jason Eller, he is their head coach. He is a Georgia College head coach, and he returns here to Lake Olmsted Stadium to take on Augusta University, as well as the pitching coach, Nolan Belcher, makes a pit stop here in Augusta, Georgia as well. He has lived here, went to high school here, went to middle school, and has made a home here. So it's good to see those two guys back in Augusta and back in a baseball uniform. For the Jags, though, we've got the ace on the mound for the Jaguars and Matt Meeks, and he's had a couple of games this year that have been really, really wonderful for him. He's dipped that ERA. He shut the door on a lot of high prolific and high-profile offenses. Let's see if he can do the same thing here tonight against Georgia College.
Well, absolutely, and that's the one piece of good news going into this game for the Jaguars, who have really struggled. Yes, Jaguars were 17-3 winners over Payne on Wednesday, and that was a huge win on Wednesday to snap the losing streak after having been shut out 3 games in a row before that. And they look to build on that here today against a very tough Georgia College team. And the good news, they have their ace on the mound, their Friday night starter for Conference Weekend Series, and he's the team leader in just about every statistical category for the Jaguars, leader in ERA, a 3.54 ERA. He's only 1-4 this season because of struggle to get run support, which has been a struggle for the Jaguars this season. This is his 10th start and 10th appearance as well. He is also the team leader in opponents' average. He has the lowest opponents' average of any Jaguars pitcher going into this season, and that's huge considering that the Georgia College has 4 players on the starting lineup that have hit over 400 this year, and the top 3 hitters in average in the league going in the Peach Belt Conference going into this weekend are all on this Georgia College team. So it's a tough offense, and the Jaguars could not have hand-selected a better starter to start off this weekend series. The one downside, it's going to be hard to use him every game for every inning because that's not how the game of baseball works when you have 3-game series with teams. But Jaguars would love to get some good innings out of him here tonight. Get the series off to, at the very least, a good start.
Well, and the Augusta offense looks to continue to surge and turn this diamond on the infield into a diamond of fire, because their offense hit on all cylinders on Wednesday night in that 17-run victory for the Jags. They had consistent hitting. They were conducting hits for average. They even crushed a few home runs out of Lake Olmsted Stadium, and Jose Nogueras, who doesn't get the start often, but he made a start on Wednesday that helped secure that 17 runs that the Jaguars anchored in en route to the victory. So when he gets a start, he definitely counts. But as for today, the Jags look to continue their surge against the Georgia College hurler and Charlie Hecht. Should be a dandy of a matchup. Right around the corner, it'll be game 1 between the Georgia College Bobcats and the Augusta Jaguars. You don't want to miss it.
In what at the time was a small, sleepy town. What began as a class of 7 students with a singular focus has grown into a body of thousands, pursuing excellence in health sciences, cyber, business, and the humanities. And now, we step into the future as a powerful, unified university with a singular symbol to represent us all. We are Augusta University. We are a family of colleges and institutions and a cutting-edge health system. And we are the heart of our college town. In the community, on the field, the court, and the course, we are the Jaguar Nation, bound by a new tradition and dedicated to making an impact around the world for the next 200 years. This is your university. This is our university. This is Augusta University. Close to 200 years ago, our foundation was laid in what at the time was a small, sleepy town. What began as a class of 7 students with a singular focus has grown into a body of thousands, pursuing excellence in health sciences, cyber, business, and the humanities. And now, we step into the future as a powerful, unified university with a singular symbol to represent us all. We are Augusta University. We are a family of colleges and institutions and a cutting-edge health system. And we are the heart of our college town. In the community, on the field, the court, and the course. We are the Jaguar Nation, bound by a new tradition and dedicated to making an impact around the world for the next 200 years. This is your university.
So let us shoot down the starting lineups for Georgia College and Augusta University respectively. For Georgia College, leading off, and he will be the first test against pitcher Matt Meeks for the Jags. The shortstop for Georgia College is Cal Gentry in the table setter slot. Then you have the first baseman, Matthew Miller, coming to call, and in the hole will be one of those three leaders in the batting average department, respectively, for the Peach Belt Conference in Wesley Womack. Then the center fielder comes calling in Logan Maddox. He will be followed up by the second baseman, Nate Schmall. Then the catcher in the 1-2 battery for Georgia College will pursue after him in Brandon Purcell. Then you also have the right fielder in Brant Stallings. And then to round out the bottom third of the Georgia College order is third baseman Garrett Green, followed by center fielder Brendan Holler as well. And Robert, Georgia College definitely will have a tough time today dealing with the Augusta starter in Matt Meeks.
Well, this offense is very good. It's one of the best in the nation, just about every category, although Matt Meeks is not an easy guy to get hits off of, regardless.
Been mixing up his pitches very well, and he delivers the first pitch just a tad outside. Fastball had a little bit of late movement attached to it, navigated out of the strike zone. Blake Collins and Robert Ambrose with you to take you all the way home in this first game between Georgia College and Augusta University. As Meeks again dials up a fastball, but it maneuvers too far inside. So he's working from behind here. 2 balls and no strikes. Tack on a first strike there as that ball is catapulted into left field, right where the bullpen area is. Two 2-1 pitch. Man, oh man, that splitter from Meeks is working today as Cal Gentry swings over the top of it and now is worked back to an even count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Meeks wheels and deals. Another splitter from Meeks, and he sends Cal Gentry packing back to the dugout off of a 5-pitch strikeout. And Robert, as we mentioned in the open, Meeks does a really good job of mixing his pitches up and changing eye level, and he just does that right there with that strikeout.
He absolutely did, and on the 2 times where he got Gentry the swing and miss after the 2-0 foul ball and he was able to battle back, he painted the edges of the strike zone, 2 completely separate edges, perfectly, and Gentry is unable to lay his bat on the ball.
The very next pitch out of Meeks' hands orchestrates a pop-up over to first base, and that is where Timothy Gray is residing. Quickly gallivants under it and hauls in the second out. And now you get to the heart of the order of Georgia College and some premier bats at the dish and on deck to start off with Wesley Womack.
Womack is followed by Maddox and Schmall, if we can get there this inning. All three of these guys hitting over 400 this season. And this is the heart of the very good Georgia College lineup.
Meeks winds up and delivers a fastball edging outside of the outside corner. It was a close call there, but Meeks is working from behind now. Meeks on 7 pitches has 2 outs, and that ball is roped into right field and deep off the base of the wall, and Womack continues his fire here today as his first plate appearance results in a stand-up double.
Well, we talked about the heart of the lineup, and they're starting to show why their stats say what they say. Womack able to come through with a double, showing us why he hits over 400 this season, and now Maddox gets his opportunity.
Maddox now ganders it a slider, sliding into the dirt. And now Meeks with a runner at second. Looks back and delivers inside, and that hit Maddox. So back-to-back here, the 3 and 4 hitters in Wesley Womack with a double, and then Maddox marches to first base off of a hit batter. Two quick outs. But Georgia College, through the middle of their order, have come up and applied pressure to Matt Meeks. And Nate Schmall is up at the dish. As Meeks can't find the strike zone on the first pitch. But then he comes back and tries to bury a fastball inside, but just a touch low. Meeks again, wheels and deals. This time tries to get Small to bite on a like a breaking ball there, but Small has other ideas and did not take the bat off the shoulder. Meeks is trying to work back into a full count. He is behind 3 balls. And that fastball pegs the outside corner, so it's now 3 balls and 1 strike. Meeks comes set and delivers. That pitch is screened into left field, and just like that, this high-powered offense off of a double from Nate Schmall shoots out to a 2-0 advantage. And that was a great piece of hitting there by Small. Inside out approach and just serves it into left field, Robert.
He absolutely did. The Bobcats, they're one of those teams, and the reason they have such high hitters that hit for such high averages is they have great control over where the ball gets hit to, and they can hit it in areas that are a lot harder for fielders to be able to track down. And that's why they're able to have as strong a bats offensively as they have.
So the next batter to take his swings at Matt Meeks is Brandon Purcell. He looks at a ball up, and then Meeks fires back with a ball that just barely misses the strike zone. So Purcell is working ahead of the count. These Georgia College hitters are looking very disciplined at the plate. Meeks buries a strike over the lower part of the strike zone there. He's still behind a ball. But now Meeks is trying to minimize the damage, only allowing those 2 runs to cross the plate. After 2 strikes, Meeks follows the second strike up with a ball outside of the strike zone. And after a 2-out double, Meeks subdues this high-powered offense to only 2 runs here in the top half of the first inning. It's the Jaguars' turn in the bottom half when we come back to see if they can surge with the aluminum bats and counter strike when we return. A little bit of a different look for the Jags at the top half of the order than what we've seen the last couple of home starts for the Jags, with Devin Billardello, the table setter, and Mason Robertson getting the starting bid as the number 2 hitter tonight, and then followed up by Harrison Moore. And to tell you more on Charlie Heck's year on the mound, Robert, take it away.
Well, he's got an 8.0 ERA this season, and he's the team leader with 91 strikeouts and a 2.21 ERA. It's not going to be easy for the Jaguars to get things going against him, but that's what they have to face here tonight, and it's going to be a tough task. He also has a complete game to his credit on the season as well.
But they can counter strike with their speed and work the counts like they have been doing over the last couple of games. They'll be in good shape. They're down at the start of their first inning on offense by 2 runs. And Devin Billardello just looking to get on base to set the table off for the Jags and jumpstart this offense. This is a team that scored 17 runs against crosstown rival Payne University on Wednesday night. And Billardello tries to jolt some offense into the aluminum bats and shoots one foul off to the right. Billardello has a deadlock count on him at 2 balls and 2 strikes. And there you see ball 3 out of the hand of Charlie Hecht. Hecht, 3-2. His 3-2 pitch is punched into the ground at short. Billardello's speed tries to beat the arm of the Georgia College shortstop, but cannot do it.
Good speed and good hustle by Billardello, but when you hit it right directly to the shortstop, Gentry, it's hard to beat that out.
Yeah, and Cal Gentry just displayed a cannon of an arm out at short. So Billardello tried the best he could, but the first out is secured by Georgia College. And now Mason Robertson looks at a first pitch strike, and then Hecht wheels and deals. Fastball with a little bit of late movement to it. Sails out of the strike zone. Get a 1-1 count now to Robertson. Robertson fouls it off, trying to time up Hecht's fastball. Hecht, 2 straight fastballs. Then what does he do? Drop a splitter on Mason Robertson, carving up Robinson as there's 2 down. It's a great pitch from Hecht to get the second out of the inning. As Harrison Moore stands in. Fastball right down the pipe for strike number 1. And that ball scorched out to right field, tailing a little bit from Brant Stallings' glove, but he stretches it the last second and corrals the third out of the inning. So 3 up and 3 down go the Jaguars in their half of the first inning. Can the Jaguars contain this offense to only 2 runs? There's only one way to find out. Stick around. So the man who garnered the final out in the bottom half of the first inning has his first opportunity here to swing away at the arm of Matt Meeks. Meeks settles in with a pitch barely inside of the strike zone. Brant Stallings looks at his second pitch, and that time it maneuvers over the outside corner of the strike zone, so it's a deadlock count at 1 ball and 1 strike. Meeks tries to battle inside, but that pitch with late movement scoots a little too far inside, and Stallings, after a hit by pitch, takes his free pass to first base.
The challenge that the Jaguars have is the offense they're facing in the Bobcats, they can hit the nasty pitches that hit the edge of the strike zone, especially the ones on the inside corner, and that's causing Meeks to have to try to go a little more inside, and unfortunately, as a result, it results in a pair of hit batters in this one.
Meeks buries a fastball over the heart of the plate for a strike.
When an offense is as good as this Bobcats offense is, you kind of have to try and get him to chase a little bit more often than you would otherwise.
Absolutely. And Meeks tries to backdoor him on the inside corner, but just a wee tad outside. As that ball ventures a little more center cut of the plate, and that ball is towered out to Billardello in center field to anchor in the first out here in the top half of the second. So the ninth man in the Bobcat order, Brendan Holler, is up at the dish. And Brendan swings right through a splitter, dying over the dish. He thought he was getting a fastball. That little discrepancy in velocity had him out in front. As Meeks checks back on Green. Strike 2 to Brendan Holler. We got Stallings on first, and then Holler at the dish. Jags are scouting out for a double play as their infield. It's in double play depth. The 0-2 pitch. Fought off foul, off to the left. He took a fastball inside with an inside-out approach, and is still alive in the count. Meeks is set to deliver. Fastball outside for the first ball in the count. Meeks can still set up Holler here as he is ahead in the count by a strike. His off-speed stuff today for Meeks has been phenomenal to this point. As Meeks checks back on Stallings. And Stallings just a little slow to get up at first base. Stallings exhibits the toughness of a baseball player and is going to stay in this game. So as we resume the at-bat, we've got 1 ball and 2 strikes. Second ball unleashed by Matt Meeks to deadlock the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. There is 1 out as Garrett Green struck a ball out into center field to where Devin Billardello camped under it. They strike him out. For the second out, they tried to do a strike him out, throw him out, double play, but the great slide from Brant Stallings slid under the tag.
That was a great slide. That was a perfect throw, almost right on the money by Alford, but the slide, and he's somehow able to avoid the tag as the throw was on the money, but it was still a little high, which gave Stallings enough room to get under it. But in terms of the position of throwing the ball right in front of second base, it doesn't get much more perfect than that if you're a catcher trying to throw the second.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing as a catcher you can control is not only how fast you throw it, but the direction of the ball as it leaves your hand. And with no wind to suffice here today, then that direction was right on the money as Stallings did a good job avoiding the tag. As that ball's punched into the ground at first. Gray's first opportunity to field a play results in the 3rd out here in the top half of the second. So we're moseying right along here. It's the bottom half of the second, and the second Jaguars opportunity with the aluminum bats in their hands. Can they strike gold and usher in 2 runs? We'll see right after the break. So Hecht in his second tour of duty in this ball game ushers in a strike to Jim Wagner at the dish. Robert Wagner likes to work the count to his advantage a lot. He's very diligent and very patient at the dish.
And that comes from 4 years of experience and being a veteran and the amount of pitches he's seen in his 4-year career. And he's got the hands-on experience on what's good to lay off and what's good to swing at and what he personally can hit. And that's one of the great things about being a senior leader in Wagner. And it also applies for him when he's in the field at third base. He's almost always, when the ball's hit to him, he's in the perfect position to field the ball cleanly and make a throw across the diamond to first look easy.
And also when he gets pitches in his wheelhouse that he can wreak havoc upon, he does just that and attacks the baseball. And he has very good speed to accumulate with that. And he oftentimes, you'll see balls in the gaps, he'll stretch into triples and he'll stretch singles into doubles. But right now, he's battling back here as 2 straight foul balls to Jim Wagner has him in a 3-ball and 2-strike juice count. Wagner is also a very versatile player for the Jags. He's played almost every position in the outfield, center, and left, and he's also played this year short and third base as well.
Played third base most of the year.
And that ball with the inside-out approach is served into left field, and the Jags, right after a 1-2-3 half of the second inning, outside of the Brandon Stallings leadoff man getting aboard. After that, they set down the side. This time, Wagner strikes first here for the Jags, and a crucial runner aboard with Wagner's speed at first base if you're the Jags to try to usher him across.
Well, we talked about his speed, and speed on the base path is somehow is one of the ways you can score runs if you do the ABCs of baseball correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed you haven't brought up the ABCs yet in this game, Blake. You're normally the one that brings it up.
Mm-hmm. Small ball is a really good tactic to use in terms of a really good team out on the diamond executing plays. And that right there is a single from Timothy Gray's bat. Couple of pitches in, that inside approach so far this half of the inning is working gorgeously for the Jags, as 2 straight singles has them in a threatening position with a runner 180 feet away from home plate.
And when you're talking about Jim Wagner's speed, his speed is the primary reason why he's been so versatile and why he's played so many different positions. And, we mentioned how he played shortstop. Mm-hmm. Why he's a good shortstop. He's got the speed, and also because of that, he's probably one of the speedier third basemen you'll see in college baseball.
Absolutely. And he's got an outfielder's arm in the infield, too. And when that cannon comes into play, he is a surefire 4 out of the 5 tool player that you always love to see in baseball if you can have them on your team. And he is definitely a huge asset for the Jags.
And on the single by Gray, a good move that you'll see by Wagner. It shows how good of a reaction time he has on the base paths as well as in the infield and when he's at the plate. It could have been a hit and run, and the corner infielder is halfway in, expecting the bunt. And it could have been a hit and run, but Wagner had to duck out of the way of the line drive to avoid being out as a result of being hit by a batted ball. I'll talk more about that in a second.
And Penley drops down a phenomenal bunt. And a productive out as Penley navigates Wagner and Gray to second and third. But it was an interesting setup, though, as we want to talk about it. It's something that Eller and the Bobcats practice is they had their second baseman in on the grass as you saw him anticipating the bunt. You usually see the first baseman coming in, but it's an interesting setup.
They were both coming in there.
With great execution abroad on the infield. As now, a powerhouse Ty Hobbs is up at the dish. Hobbs has a chance to deadlock the score at 2-all with a base hit single. As you've got good speed at third and pretty good speed at second.
That's why they had Penley lay down the bunt, is to get that good speed into scoring position. I was talking about the line drive that Gray hit, and Wagner had to use his reflexes to get out of the way to not be hit by a bad ball, and he made that move to get out of the way look easy, but that having to take the time to get out of the way contributed him to, if it wasn't for that, maybe it would have been a successful hit and run and he would have been on the third base. I'm not sure if hit and run was necessarily Gray's intention, but it could have worked out that way. But it also didn't help that it was too hard of a hit ball, maybe for Wagner to attempt to go to third anyway.
And also respecting the arm of Stallings as well, because you don't want to run into the first or third out at third base.
Absolutely not. It's a cardinal sin.
As Hecht is trying to work around murky waters, and his first pitch is a ball. Hobbs with a little bit more discipline as a power hitter than you normally think power hitters would have, and that's a crucial asset for his game to have, because he can work the count and then get a pitch in his wheelhouse and just carve it up. Right there, though, that discipline pays off as he is venturing down to first base off of a walk.
And if you're the Bobcats, I'm not so sure if you'd necessarily be worried about putting Hobbs on. First base was open, and with the speedy guys on second and third, loading the bases makes it easier to get the speedy guys out with the fourth plays now at any base, including home plate.
Is now a very good block there by Purcell to save a run for Georgia College, as that ball met the dirt before it hit home plate. It's about a 58-foot curveball right there. Comes back with a fastball high and tight, as the senior catcher, Brent Alford, wants nothing to do with that pitch. Bases are juiced for the Jags. One out. And a strike settles in on the outside corner. It's 2 balls and 1 strike. Alford's still in a hitter's count. And that ball is punched into the ground at short. A bobble there from Cal Gentry, and the Jags mosey on home with their first run of the game off of a miscue at short.
And the ABCs of baseball, that's a rule to base hit, and rightfully so, as it looks like all the runners were going to beat it out, regardless of if the shortstop and Gentry had any chance to throw to any base. I bet any of them could have beat it out, so it's a base hit. It was a softly hit ball, makes it easy for the runners to advance and for everybody to be safe there, and they'll run the score.
And all this havoc has been created with 1 out.
The one out that came on the sacrifice bunt by Penley, an out that the Jaguars basically gave the Bobcats. So far, the Jaguars, everything working for them in this inning.
You see that sacrifice paying huge dividends right off the bat here, and it's turned over to Trent Maddox at the dish to see if they can surge with any more damage here in the bottom of the second.
The sacrifice allowed for the Jaguars to make the Bobcats put another one of their runners on base that can be a threat on the base paths.
And that ball's fisted into left field. And a tremendous diving stab by Brendan Holler to secure the second out. I wasn't sure if it was going to hang up in time for Holler to garner the second out, but at the last split second, he dove in a beautiful diving stab for the second out. So Maddox fought it off, put some good aluminum to it, but comes up empty. As all the runners that were stationed at third, second, and first are still stationed there. No advancement on the play. But that does turn the lineup card over back to Devin Billardello, and he fights one off to the right, foul. He's staring at a 0 ball and 2 strike hole. This is not the first time, Robert, we've seen Augusta battle back in crucial situations.
Well, they do it throughout basically any game. At this level, teams, they get a lead and they keep fighting. They fall behind, they keep fighting. They're tied, they keep fighting, regardless of the circumstances.
As you see, Billardello is a prime example of that, exemplifying that well, battling here with an 0-2 count. He swings right through that splitter, though, and the damage is halted for the time being for the Jags as their second inning comes to a close. But they do strike with 1 run to creep up on what was a 2-run lead. Now it is back to 1. So Meats is rearing back and ready to go here in the top half of the 3rd inning, as his team is fought back. It is now only down by 1. In the first pitch he delivers to Matthew Miller is shot back to the right in foul territory. And that will be a concourse baseball. As you've got 2, and as Matthew Miller gets pegged on look like the waistline, he trots over to first base. That is a huge step for Georgia College because now, Robert, they've got their heart of the order in 3, 4, and 5 due up with a man on.
They are. Here's Womack, who started the trouble in the first inning with a 2-out and nobody on double. Then Maddox was hit by pitch, and they both came in to score on a 2-run double by Schmall, and all those guys come up now, and they're all hitting above 400 this season, as I said last time they came up.
And if you're Meeks here, you want to try to keep the ball down, but also pitch opposite to what the hitter is thinking, as well as pitch to contact, because if you give them anything to hit here, there's a possibility that this could shoot out to a 3-run lead.
It absolutely can, and if you're Meeks, what he really needs to improve is he's hit 1 batter per inning so far, 3 batters, and now just the 3rd inning. And when you give the opponent a free base, especially if your opponent is the Bobcats, a 31-8 record overall and 22-2 first place in the Peach Belt Conference, they're going to make you pay if you give them any free opportunity. Fortunately, the Jaguars forced the Bobcats to strand the runner that got hit by pitch in Stallings, who was hit to lead off the 2nd inning. However, they made him pay in the 1st.
And now Alford guns out Miller at 2nd. It was a little bit of a slow developing play, but Alford put the bullet in that ball and shot it over to second base to where Maddox applies the tag beautifully. And now it changes the complexion of the inning because
It completely does.
3, 4, and 5 have no men on base to try to extend this lead. So now we're back to square one where we started off the inning. This time it's in favor of the Jags with 1 out.
And they had nobody on base when they all came up in the 1st inning with 2 outs, and they all ended up getting on and making it 2-0. Although Meeks has seen them all once in this game. We'll see what adjustments he makes here. But that, as much as that changes the inning, we're seeing some great throws to second by the catcher, Brent Alford, for the Jaguars. And we saw last inning when Stallings stole second, it was a good throw, but Stallings was able to slide under the tag. No chance for Miller to get under the tag there. He had a decent jump, but the throw was so on the money, and it was also low enough that it was impossible for Miller to get under it. He would have had to do an extreme limbo.
Yeah, and also, too, sometimes the pressure that it puts on the catcher to make an accurate and precise throw with the man running from first to second, especially to preserve the deficit that the Jaguars are at, can actually motivate a catcher to throw a strike, and he thrives in that environment. And as you saw right there with that cannon that Alford has, it was lights out on Georgia College's behalf to escort that 3rd run from first to second. So now Womack bounces one to Gray. He takes it himself, and the Jags have 2 men down very rapidly here in the 3rd inning. And now Meeks is right back in his comfort zone as he only has 1 more out to get here in the 3rd. But he's going up against one of those names we mentioned that has and has captured the batting average lead in the conference. He is in 6th place in that department in Logan Maddox.
He was hit by pitches last time up and made the Jaguars pay when he scored from first on Schmall's double. Schmall is on deck.
Entering into this game, he's hitting a cool, calm, and collected .404. And Meeks is trying to send that average into a spiral as that fastball shoots across the plate, but nowhere near the strike zone. So it is 3 balls and no strikes. Counteracts with a pitch there. And for Meeks, you don't want to lose Maddox here. He doesn't lose him, but he does give up a double that is placed perfectly down the left field line. And the 3, 4, and 5 hitters for Georgia College, you can see why they are ranked in the top half of the batting average leaders in the conference.
Well, Maddox now has reached base twice with hit batsmen and the double. All 3 of the team hits so far for the Bobcats have been doubles, so they're not afraid to go for the extra base.
And Meeks starts off the very next batter, Nate Small, with a splitter down. He's working in a containment mode right now, trying to contain this 2-1 advantage and not let it spread out to a 3-1 advantage in favor of Georgia College. And Small steps back in. Another splitter dies, and Small golfed after it. And he's in a serious hole. 0 balls and 2 strikes. So Meeks is 1 strike away from shutting the door here in the top half of the third.
Talk about how huge that would be after the Jaguars got a run last inning.
Oh, a huge confidence booster, especially against this powered up lineup.
And the Jaguars definitely threatened for scoring more last inning. They had the bases loaded with 1 out after scoring the 1 run on the infield single. And the Jaguars, like the Bobcats this inning, going into the bottom half, they'll have the heart of their lineup due up, same spot.
The 1-2 pitch stretches just beyond the outside corner. So we've got Deuces Wild here with 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs, as my broadcast partner would say.
Good to hear you say it too. Sometimes.
As Small rolls over the top. And thankfully for Georgia College, that ball was foul. That would have been the 3rd out in the inning. Now they have a new chance here at placing aluminum on the baseball and new life at trying to stretch across that 3rd run.
It was Schmall that scored the 2 runs in the first inning on the double. Now he's up here in the 3rd.
And that ball is fisted out to Meeks. And on the very next pitch, Meeks gets out of the predicament with no runs coming across. The Jags are up in the bottom half of the 3rd, right around the bend. Mason Robertson is up at the dish looking to cook up some offense to try to tie this ball game up at 2. And he stares at a second pitch, second in a row, and this last pitch was a strike on the inside corner. 2-1. And Robertson quickly makes that 2-2. As that ball is about 4 rows back in foul territory on the first base side. Robertson is a fighter. And he's worked the count back even at 2 balls and 2 strikes. He's fighting off pitches here to stay alive. And Hecht. That ball was hit out to the first baseman. And the out is recorded off of Matthew Miller's glove. And Harrison Moore stands in now as the second man up in the inning and trying to get a Jag aboard so he can cause chaos and issue in the Jags' second run. And he does just that off of a hit by pitch that hit him what looked like in the chest. He's okay, and he's running down to first. He'll stay in this ball game, but it's a huge man aboard for the Jags. You've got Jim Wagner up at the dish. And remember, he was a man aboard that started the rally back an inning ago. And Wagner takes a strike, maneuvering inside to the inside corner. And that ball was almost like a pitch-out pitch or a waste pitch. To see if Hecht can set up Wagner here and get him swinging at a pitcher's pitch. It's a good pitch from Hecht there. It settles in over the outside corner. A tough take if you're Wagner to put you in a hole, but that's one of those that could have gone either way. Same location, same target. Could not connect on the strike. As Wagner strikes out swinging.
And they're going to call out more as Wagner ran in front of the catcher who may or may not have thrown to first, and that ends the inning.
So a miscue does the Jags in the bottom half of the third inning. We're rolling right along into the fourth inning. know you're itching to see what happens. Don't go anywhere. Purcell's looking to get on base for the Bobcats. Without further ado, to take you 4 through 7, here is Robert. Take it away.
Thank you, Blake. So Purcell will lead off. Will be followed by the right fielder Brant Stallings, and then Garrett Green for the Bobcats. And Purcell looks at a called strike. 0-1. 2-1 is the score in favor of the Bobcats here in the top of the third inning, or the fourth inning, which we start. And the 0-1 pitch, another called strike by Purcell, who has not swung the bat. And 2 pitches, both resulting in called strikes.
This is one time where the discipline that the Bobcats have may come back to bite them.
And line past Jim Wagner, may have grazed his glove. It goes into left field for a base hit, a leadoff single for Purcell. Purcell's the number 6 hitter in this lineup for the Bobcats, and that's huge, as that could have been almost a spectacular line-out catch by Wagner, but it just grazes his glove just out of his reach. And a ball that was a little too hard hit and a little hard to react in time.
Yeah, but that was also a phenomenal job there by Penley to hold Purcell to a single instead of a double. He came
That's huge.
back
You
up.
are absolutely right,
Yeah.
the ABCs. As of the 4 hits now that the Bobcats have had as a team, that's the first that's not an extra base hit, only a single.
And it was because of his cannon that Purcell turned back around and shot back over to first. A huge play. You're right, a small play, but it may come up big here in this inning for the Jags.
Yes, it may, as Stallings fouls the first pitch back, 0-1. Purcell was running with the pitch, and here's another reason that's huge. Even though Purcell's a number 6 hitter, he's got great speed. He has the speed of a leadoff hitter. He's got 14 stolen bases this season to lead the team, and watch out in case he's running here. And I think Meeks may have heard me there, and he throws over to first.
And another point to that is Purcell is the catcher. He is the
catcher with 14 stolen bases leading the team.
You don't see that often. And
you sure don't.
And with that kind of speed, it just goes to show you that at any point in this at-bat, he may take off.
Grounded to short. Runner was not going with the pitch. Throw to second in time. To first, a double play. And the decision not to go comes back to haunt the Bobcats. He was running with the pitch that Stallings fouled off.
Mm-hmm.
The second pitch that Stallings sees, he does not go, and it's a double play on a hard hit ball to shortstop. 2 outs here in the fourth.
Really good transfer from Maddox. Good concentration to shoot it over to Robertson, then Mason to fire it over to Gray at first. Textbook execution there from the Jags. Acquires 2 outs.
First pitch swung on by Green in the air to right field. Harrison Moore goes over and makes the catch. It's a quick 3-up, 3-down inning thanks to the double play. As we go to the bottom of the fourth, the Jaguars will come to bat trailing 2-1. We'll be back. And we are back here at the lake. It's the bottom of the fourth. Timothy Gray will lead it off for the Jaguars. They'll have the 5, 6, 7 hitters due up, and he fouls the first pitch he sees to the screen. Blake, we are seeing two aggressive offenses. Neither team's hitters are wanting to let a lot of pitches go by.
No, they have a never say die attitude at the plate, and that's come back to work tremendously for the Jags in their couple of innings that they've had men on base. And then for Georgia College, the aggressive nature at the plate has served them very well with acquiring the 2 runs off of their middle of the order. And if the Jags can try to silence that middle of the order, they'll be in good shape, because outside of that, it's been slim pickings in terms of hits for the Bobcats.
The 2-ball, 1-strike pitch to Timothy Gray misses outside for a ball, 3-1. The count, the top of the fourth inning, and half an inning ago, was over so fast. There were so many things we had to discuss that we didn't really get the chance. The 3-1 pitch in the air to left field, and the catch is made by Haller for out number 1. That's going to bring up Jay Penley. And we go back an inning ago to the bottom of the third. The way that inning ended, there was Harrison Moore on first after he was hit by pitch with 1 out. And then Jim Wagner struck out for the 2nd out. And then Moore was called out because Wagner stepped in the way, completely inadvertently. He stepped in the way of the catcher Purcell, who may or may not have been planning to throw to first. He took a look over to first, and Moore went back, and he didn't throw it. You'll never know if he was going to throw it if it wasn't for Wagner getting away, but by rule, that is ruled interference and an unfortunate out to end the inning. Ground to the short, and it's off of the glove of Gentry, the shortstop, and we'll see how they rule it. It was a slow roller hit ball, and that's an error on the shortstop Gentry, and that allows Penley on first with 1 out, and it's going to bring up Ty Hobbs.
And just one more thing about that play, you hardly ever see that play in the game. It almost never occurs, but it's one of those rules that is there to protect not only the catcher but the batter in front of the catcher as well, to not get injured.
First pitch to Hobbs in the dirt. Gets by the catcher to second, goes Penley, and ball's thrown away into the outfield. Penley's going to stay at second on the wild pitch. Reaches on an error and advances on a wild pitch. So far, the Jaguars this inning taking advantage of sloppy defense by the Bobcats.
Yeah, and that was a rather low throw for Purcell to try to dig out. And anytime you have a low throw, it's more difficult to transfer behind the plate and get a good grip on the ball. And as you saw right there, Purcell just airmailed it into center field.
Check on the runner at second. Here's the 1-0 pitch to Hobbs. Swing and a miss. 1-1. Now the count. Check on the runner at second, and back in time is Penley. And if you're the Jaguars, if you're Penley, it's okay to be aggressive, but you got to be aggressive responsibly. You're the tying run, even though it's the fourth inning. Those little things matter. You don't want to waste an out because you take too big of a lead off a second or get caught stealing because you didn't have a big enough jump. The 1-1, swing and a miss, 1-2.
And Hobbs right now just trying to put good aluminum to the baseball to wrangle in Penley from second to home.
Single might tie the game. Swing and a miss. And down on strikes is the designated hitter Hobbs for out number 2. And that's going to bring up the catcher, Brent Alford. And Alford's 1 for 1 in this game with a single, and he's had just as good of a game defensively. Throwing out a runner, stealing, almost threw out a second runner.
Yeah, with 2 surefire throws that had a cannon of an arm behind them. Very close to acquiring 2 outs on throws, but just one that Stallings slid under in the first inning. But he's got a rifle of an arm, and he's displaying that here tonight in great effect.
Second runners, here's the pitch. First pitch swinging, popped up by Alford. That's going to go in the air to right field. Stallings under it. Stallings makes the catch. The inning is over, and the Jaguars strand the runner on second. And the score remains 2-1 as we head now to inning number 5 at the Lake. You're watching and listening to the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. We'll be back. We welcome you back to beautiful Lake Olmsted Stadium in the beautiful city of Augusta, Georgia on a beautiful night for baseball. Clear skies, and the temperature is absolutely perfect. It's not too hot or too cold either. It's just right, just like Goldilocks' porridge, Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. The Garden City's playing host to a very tight and very sound game. Both pitching squads today. I mean, especially from Meeks and Heck, they're doing a really good job on the mound, mixing up their pitches, very well orchestrated and containing in the strike zone, and then pitching out of jams when those pressure situation or pressure cooker situations are out on the field and ever present.
And the 2-0, swing and a miss. 2-1 is now the count on the number 9 hitter, Holler. Followed by the top of the order, we'll have Gentry and then Miller up. And it's huge if you're the Jaguars to get these guys out if you can and get a 3-up, 3-down inning. And the reason for that, if any of them reach, then you have the heart of the lineup due up in the 3, 4, 5 hitters who are all hitting over 400 this season. And they've been trouble so far in this game, and they're the only reason why the Bobcats have the 2-1 lead.
Yeah, and they were the prime instigators in their two runs in the first with a double from Womack, and then as you turn the card over, it doesn't get any easier with Maddox, Small, and then as we talked about earlier, Purcell with that speed. It's a very good 3 through 6 that Georgia College offers in their lineup.
The 3-2 fouled back to the screen by Holler. Will do it again. A good at bat here. Meeks has pitched extremely well in this game. He's had a little trouble, but he's kept it to minimal damage, especially since the first inning. Double play and catching a runner stealing have greatly helped since that time. The 3-2 pitch swung on, popped up. Center field, Billardello is under it, and Devin Billardello makes the catch for the Jaguars, and that's out number 1.
Meeks has done a really good job at pitching to contact, and when he's fallen behind in the counts, his rotation and his movement on his pitches works him right back into the count, as late movement is getting him strikes all day long, and it's something that he wants to continue to do to continue to try to silence this Bobcat offense.
And Gentry looks at a ball. 1 ball and no strikes. 0 for 2 in this game. A strikeout to lead off the game and a ground out to end the top of the second. The 1-0 pitch misses downstairs. 2 balls and 1 strike. 2 balls and no strikes, I should say. This is game 1 of a 3-game weekend Peach Belt Conference Series. Game 2 tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Time first pitch here at the Lake. Game 3, the series finale on Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time here at the Lake. And the 2-0 pitch, that's popped up in the air to center. This time, giving chase, Jay Penley is under it, and he makes the catch for out number 2. So a pair of pop flyouts into the outfield. And that results in 2 outs here in the top of the 5th. And that's going to bring up the first baseman, Matthew Miller, 6'3" senior from all the way in San Diego. California is his hometown. He's also transferred from University in Hawaii. So he knows this weather his whole life. There's no question about that. He was hit by a pitch leading off the 3rd inning and was caught stealing.
And if you think weather doesn't matter to a baseball player, try playing in some of the major league snow games that they've had over the past
This has been a
week.
one-of-a-kind start to a season here in 2018 in Major League Baseball. I think we've already had like a record of rainouts this year for a month.
Rainouts,
Halfway through the
snowouts,
month of
game
April.
postponements. It's been
Absolutely.
all over the place. I think there's been like something around like 20 games postponed this
Nuts.
year.
And Maddox throws across the diamond on a grounder to first. And that ends the inning, so a very important 3-up, 3-down inning as the Jaguars come back. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the other side of this break, Blake, as we go to the bottom of the 5th. We'll be back. We welcome you back here to the Lake. It's the bottom of the 5th. And first pitch to Trent Maddox is a ball 1-0. He leads off. He'll be followed by Devin Billardello and Mason Robertson in the top half of this inning. Blake, we were talking about major leagues and the record number of rainouts for a month, and we're on record-setting pace for that in a whole year, and also postponements because of weather and snow in a lot of the games up north. This is the transition season in a lot of the country where the weather's supposed to start to heat up. And up north, it really hasn't. It's stayed cold, and it's really affected a lot of play in some of the MLB games this year. And a lot of minor league games have been called just because of cold, not because of rain, in some of the leagues up there I've seen so far.
It's been a crazy year. You look at it, and you've seen that first of all, to start off the year, the Pirates and the Tigers got postponed twice in their 3-game series, so they had to double up. And that's an interleague series. They only play one time, so they had to double up twice in that series.
Maddox hits it to the warning track, and Stallings is there to make the catch for out number 1.
And then you've had games that have been played in snow, like the Indians and the Angels. It was either last week or
that would be in Cleveland. And
yeah,
if you're a team from Southern California, you're like, what is this?
You're just like hating this weather. It's like because there's no type of mental preparation that you can prepare to play a game in that type of weather because
no chance, especially if you're the Angels.
Exactly. I mean, especially with playing out in California, where it almost never rains or never gets cold in that retrospect. It's crazy.
No. In LA, it's hardly ever above 80 and hardly ever below 60.
And up in the Northeast, you can just cancel Christmas on anything that's even remotely saturated over to where there's puddles in the infield or anything. You can cancel Christmas on playing games, and that's why a lot of the games that have been played in the Northeast due to snow or due to rain or due to inclement weather have been postponed, and it's going to make for a chaotic middle of the season, and
it absolutely will.
The later the season because, and we'll get to that in a minute here.
The 3-0 pitch, called strike to Billardello, who is obviously taking all the way.
Because in the CBA, they've agreed upon extra off days to give the players playing in the major leagues. And that's also attributed to why opening day was in March 29th. And some of those off days now, you'll have to make up some of these postponement games when those teams are off.
And for those of you listening and just learning about this development now from us, with all the rainouts and thinking, my goodness, it's going to be a busy time of year with a lot of doubleheaders to make up these games a little later on. Nope. What Blake was saying, as Billardello's called out on strikes for the second out, because they started earlier, for that reason alone, and it's going to become a blessing because a lot of teams with more mutual off days because they started earlier. It seems crazy to start extra early, but the extra mutual off days will mean less double headers, and I'm sure a lot of the players will be disappointed about not having the off days later on.
Right.
But nevertheless, less double headers definitely helps. And another example, the Cubs and Cardinals were rained out on Wednesday, and they were going to have an off day on Thursday, but the Cardinals stuck around Chicago for an extra day and just played the game on Thursday and then took off after that. So that's the first example we've seen from that.
It's been crazy. I mean, the Braves and Cubs got rained out, and that's
they were playing in sleet in a game. Didn't the Braves blow like a 10-1 lead in like a sleet snow or something ridiculous like that?
That was a Saturday. It was supposed to be a Saturday matinee, which turned into a long, dreary day at Wrigley Field. And even Joe Madden, the manager of the Cubs at that point, said those conditions were they shouldn't have played the game in that kind of
And that's coming
weather.
From the winning manager.
Exactly. And, I mean...
a team that came behind from 9 runs down.
Yeah.
And they're still saying that.
So it's been a wacky start and a wacky 3 weeks to start off the Major League season to put a bow on it and to wrap things up on the conversation.
But don't get me wrong, it's been a great start to the MLB season.
Oh,
a lot of great games and
absolutely. I mean, to put it in perspective, all right, you had a game in, I think it either was the first or second day of the regular season go 13 innings. And then you also had a game between the Cubs and the Marlins, I believe, on Saturday of the opening week, go 17 innings and down in Miami. It has been a wacky week, but it's been one of the best years that I've seen in some time, and it would just go to show you that anything can happen in this sport, and we're looking to have a very good regular season.
Absolutely. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, the count on Harrison Moore. Blake, you said this earlier, and usually I say it first. Today you beat me to it. Congratulations. Deuces are wild. And the 2-2 pitch. Swung on. That's going to be grounded to short. They're going to throw to first. And the scoop in time for the out. And we go to the 6th. Still 2-1 in favor of the Bobcats. We'll be back. Welcome back here to the lake. It's the top of the 6th inning. The score remains 2-1 in favor of the Bobcats. It's been that same score since the bottom half of the 2nd inning. And it's held up till now here in the top of the 6th. And it'll be the heart of the Bobcat order, due up. The 3 guys hitting over 400 in the lineup, all leading off here this inning. And Womack looks at a ball 1-0.
These 3 individuals and going on down to about the 7 hole have been the recipients of the damage that has been done by Georgia College, with doubles galore in the 1st inning that set Georgia College off on the right foot in acquiring their first run, and then these guys are looking to do the same thing right here.
Ball and a strike on Womack. There's been absolutely no wind today. The flag has not moved at all since before the gates even opened. Grounder to second, throw to first, in time, and that gets the speedy Womack for a huge out number 1. And Womack hitting over 400 this year. He also has good speed. He's a versatile player, and it showed there, and he almost beat out that bang play, and that was a hard hit ball to second that he almost beat out as well.
Absolutely, and on plays like that, it's hard to read how the ball is going to bounce in the infield, because if you get an in-between hop or anything and have to play it off of that, it could turn into disaster. But very well played by the Jags infield to secure that first out.
Pitch called strike to Maddox. 0-1.
Especially if the ball has rotation after it comes up.
And the 0-1 misses for a ball. 1-1 on Maddox. Matt Tix, spelled Mattix. Reached base twice today. He has been hit by a pitch. He has scored a run, and he has doubled. here on this Friday evening. We have seen a very good pitching game by both sides. Both starting pitchers, Meeks and Height, they've had their moments of trouble, but they've been able to get out of them in this 2-1 game. 2 balls and no strikes. Count on Maddox. Here's the pitch. Called. Strike 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Count is even now.
He's trying to make Meeks throw a strike, and Meeks parlayed a fastball right over the heart of the plate. And if he had the idea of swinging at it, he might have crushed that out of here.
And that's fouled away. Count remains 2-2 on Maddox. He's going to be followed by Schmall, who doubled in the only 2 runs scored in this game so far by the Bobcats. That was back with 2 outs in the first inning. And the 2-2 pitch swung on, fouled away again. And it was at that point back in the first where it was looking like the Bobcats were picking up right where they left off on offense in the majority of their games this year, as they lead the nation in just about every offensive category. But since then, the Jaguars have really clamped down on them.
Well, both teams with this opposite field approach, it has worked wonders for them, because in that approach, you allow the ball to travel deeper into the strike zone, and you can see the ball better at that particular approach angle.
Alford runs out of room on that foul ball. That's going to go in the stands, and it's a souvenir for one very lucky fan. And it's always in these moments in games where a lot of fans get up and start hustling towards the ball. Hey, it's a free souvenir.
Absolutely.
Why not? And a lot of value, too, for something that's free. 2 balls, 2 strikes here on Maddox with 1 out.
And hey, I mean, added to that value, and to your point, we've got a pitcher's duel here tonight, and there's not much more you can ask for in terms of pitching than to see a pitcher's duel like this.
That's line in the gap to left center field. That's going to go to the wall, and that's a double for Maddox. His second double in as many at-bats in this game. Puts a runner on second with 1 out, and that's going to bring up Nate Schmall, who doubled home both Maddox and Womack back in the first.
Well, that's been their MO to start off with, because they had 3 consecutive doubles in the first, and they continue to see the ball well, and then through the strike zone, explode through the ball. And they're not trying to do too much with it either. Just power up and serve it into a good spot in left and right center fields, and it's working out tremendously for Georgia College.
Pitch is a ball to Schmall, 1-0. Talk about how this is a pitcher's duel. Now that's going to be the first mound visit of this game for the Jaguars. Head coach Chris Howell on his way out to talk to Meeks.
Meeks this game has been effective when he's been able to keep the ball down and outside of the strike zone, when he's been able to elevate the ball, and that's attributed to them working the count for Georgia College. But when he's elevated the ball, that's when they've attacked, let the ball travel, and then shoot it out into the gaps in left and right center.
This game, as you mentioned, it is a pitcher's duel. It did not appear to be a pitcher's duel early on, but it has evolved into one over time since. See who the Jaguars have in their bullpen as soon as we can.
And just to add more fire to that point, the table as far as the score goes is 2-1. Now Georgia College has out-hit the Jags 5-4, but Meeks has settled back in, and he's pitching a dandy of a ball game. When you can only contain this offense to 2 runs, that's a surefire dandy of an outing thus far. And not only that, hold this offense to 5 hits and keep them close. And the way Meeks is going right now, he may try to go the distance in this ball game.
Well, if he can go to distance, how huge would that be to give the Jaguars a very important day off for their bullpen?
Now they do,
which they might need later on this series.
Now they do have a couple of arms long tossing out in the bullpen for the Jags.
Potentially a precaution. We'll soon see how Chris Howell plays his hand. Ball and a strike and an out on Schmall. Runner on second in Maddox here in the top of the sixth. Here's the pitch. And that's going to be grounded off of the glove of Hobbs. Throw to first. Not in time as Meeks went over to cover, but it was hit a little bit too far out of the reach of Hobbs. He was able to get it, but not enough time to be able to get the runner and Schmall, and the Bobcats are in business here in the sixth, trying to extend their lead. Runners at the corners and one out.
You know, you always see where the first step in terms of an outfield tracking the ball in the air is the best start. Right there, Gray did everything he could to try to track that ball down. First step was absolutely brilliant in terms of getting to the baseball. He had to reach across his body, and he couldn't close the glove on the ball. But a pretty good attempt there by Gray to at least try to get the second out. Bright side here for the Jags is that a double play can be just what the doctor ordered and usher an exit to the top half of the sixth inning.
And the Jaguars have shown they are very capable of getting the double play, as they've done so earlier in this game. They did it to get outs 1 and 2 of the fourth inning. They also threw out a guy stealing, and that's fair down the left field line. Scoring easily is Maddox, walking home to third, Schmall. They're going to wave him around. On his way to second, Purcell, and Schmall comes home. But time is called. They're going to send Schmall back to third. It is a ground roll double by Maddox, and that's a good break for the Jaguars, as that may have deprived, it definitely deprived the Bobcats of a run. A huge break for the Jaguars, and actually, let's see how they rule that. Originally, they were trying to send Schmall back to third. I believe the ball was interfered with by one of the Jaguar players in their bullpen, and we'll see how that affects things.
So it should be a dead ball at that regard, and
even if it's interfered with by the bullpen of the team on defense.
Right.
Interesting.
And it should keep Schmall at third.
And it does. Schmall is on his way back to third. That is the official ruling now.
And the thing about that is, too, the bullpen, when they're throwing, they're not focusing on the ball coming at them. So it's by accident that it's either being messed with or toyed with, and that's why they're having Schmall stay at third, because it was an unintentional interference right there.
So the unintentional interference does not come back to haunt the Jaguars. It ends up costing a run for the time being for the Bobcats, and the infield goes completely in with runners at second and third and one out. The Jaguars do not want to allow any insurance runs whatsoever. Ball 1 to Stallings, 1-0. Earlier on, the unintentional interference by Jim Wagner after striking out ended up ending the third, as that resulted in an out on the interference play for the third out there. So we've seen it go both ways for the Jaguars on a pair of unintentional interferences.
And in that instance, too, that ball, you had Penley go to and be able to get to. That prevented Purcell to get to the ball, and it also inhibited his throwing lane to throw in. So that's where the out is applied to the Jags there, is because accidentally Wagner stepped into and in front of the catcher trying to garner the out. There, it was already a base hit, and the interference didn't really affect anything, with the exception of the Georgia College fourth run.
The Bobcats can score the runner from third by ways other than a base hit. That's lined in the air to center field. That's a base hit. It's going to score Schmall. Purcell is waved around third. He's going to score. It's a 2-run single by Brant Stallings, and that makes it 5-1, as now the Bobcats have figured out how to get their offense going against Meeks, who might be tiring on the mound, even though he's pitched well through the first 5 innings. It's 5-1 now in favor of the Bobcats. Stallings with the RBI for the Bobcats. And that's his 28th and 29th RBI in 2018. He's a junior. He was a star player just a couple summers ago in the 2016 summer for the Keene Swamp Bats, the New England Collegiate, a summer collegiate baseball team in the New England Collegiate Baseball League, the NECBL. So he has experience in major collegiate summer league action. Does the junior for the Bobcats, and
that's probably going to be.
That's it for Matt Meeks, as this is Howell's second mound visit. So we'll take a quick break, step aside, and on the other side of this break, we'll let you know who the new pitcher is for the Jaguars. We'll be back.
It's got to be because every.
We welcome you back here to the lake. Jaguars trail the Bobcats 5-1 here in the top of the sixth. They trailed 2-1 when this inning began. They also trailed 2-1 in the bottom of the second. That's how long of a gap we had between scoring plays in this game, as the Bobcats have began to pull away and have forced the Jaguars to go to their bullpen, and the first reliever we see in this game is Ben Parr. He's got a 5.30 ERA this season. This is his 16th appearance out of the bullpen. He also has 2 saves for the Jaguars this season. He has a check on the runner at first, and Brant Stallings, who drove in a pair of runs and a single. That's why he's on first here with 1 out. The batter now is Garrett Green, 0 for 2 in this game. Runners going, and Stallings has a stolen base. His second stolen base of the game, and now he's going to third as the ball gets into the outfield, and he makes it all the way to third. So a stolen base and a throwing error by the catcher, Brent Alford, who has already had a very good game so far behind the plate, throwing over to second in this game. And that throw not quite to the level we saw earlier, and that allows Stallings to go all the way to third. And what great speed by Stallings as well.
And another facet to this is that extra base brings in the Jags defense
once again
to try to cut down the runner at third, but it also, for Georgia College, you see the bunt.
They do the squeeze play, and it's going to work, and Parr is unable to come up with it. Everybody's safe. Stallings scores at 6-1. As I mentioned before, Stallings was a star player for the Keene Swamp Bats a couple summers ago in the New England Collegiate Baseball League, Summer Collegiate Baseball, and that's a wood bat league. So he's got experience using the same type of bat that the pros do. And Green gets on with a single, and you know the offense for the Bobcats is as good as it is when you see Garrett Green, the number 8 hitter. He's also hitting over 400 this year, and he's hitting 8th. That's how good and how deep this lineup is. And we talked a lot about how good the heart of the lineup is. Heart is something the Bobcats have 1 through 9.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one more point that you had on Stallings. Look at what he did with the wooden bats in that league that only has the wooden bats in it. That makes him more lethal with an aluminum bat in his hand.
And he's only a junior, by the way. So potentially he could be back on the Bobcats next season. A ball and a strike on Holler, the number 9 hitter for the Bobcats. Shows bunt once again, pulls back, pitches a ball, throw down, the runner was going, a throw down, and out at second is Green. As that's the second time in this game Alford has caught a runner stealing. We saw Stallings steal successfully earlier on, and what seems to have paid off for him this inning as he ultimately scored on the bunt single by Green on a squeeze bunt play, and now Green is caught stealing, trying to steal second for the second out. And the Bobcats not afraid to take any risks with the lead. We're seeing a big difference here now compared to earlier, when now they're seeing 2 batters in a row trying to steal second. The Bobcats were definitely trying to steal plenty of times earlier, but now we're seeing a little more here this inning, now that they have a bigger lead. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs to Holler. Lined up the middle, a base hit. And now the pickoff of Garrett Green trying to steal second in at bat a go. That might come back, taunt the Bobcats, as the complexion of this inning drastically changes because of that.
Absolutely, and the thing is they should have had their 7th run right there, but thanks to that they don't. But right there, he's had a good clean at bat and get a pitch right over the heart of the plate, and they didn't try to do too much with it. Just shoot it back up. Shoot it back up the gut. And
first pitch, ball 1 to Gentry, 1-0.
And all they did was shoot it back where the pitcher left. The pitch over the plate. So a phenomenal piece of hitting.
Since Womack grounded out to second to begin the inning for the first out, the Bobcats have seen 6 consecutive base hits as the result of 2 doubles and 4 singles, including 3 straight singles, and the streak of 3 straight singles is still alive. And the pickoff of Garrett Green attempting to steal is the reason there are 2 outs, despite the hitting streak that the Bobcats as a team have put together here this inning. 3 balls and no strikes, the count to Gentry. Bobcats offense has suddenly caught fire this inning, showing why their stats say what they do. 3 balls, 1 strike now, the count to Gentry. On deck is Miller. Jaguars going into the bottom half of this inning will have the middle third of their lineup due up in Wagner, Gray, and Penley. The 3-1 pitch. Called. Strike 2, 3-2. Count is full on Gentry, and that means Holler will likely take off with there being 2 outs and him at first.
Well, a lot of it is a nice complexion as a hitter, because not only are they disciplined up at the plate, but they are aggressive selective, which means that anything in the vicinity of the plate coverage that they cover, they'll attack it, and they've been getting good strong hits, especially this inning, out of those selected pitches that they've been bombarding.
They absolutely will, and we see Gentry foul one away there, and he stays alive. And Holler will likely take off again. And the 3-2 pitch, that's lined, and that's past Mason Robertson at second. A base hit on his way to third. Holler, as the hit and run is successful, as Holler was running with the pitch, and he's able to walk to third base easily, and that's 7 consecutive hits for the Bobcats, as well as 4 straight singles. Runners at the corners, 2 outs for Miller. And this is the 9th hitter to come to the plate this inning for the Bobcats.
It's a good conscious effort by the Bobcats not to overswing and not to try to kill the ball. They're not using a lot of launch angle tactics here. They're just putting good aluminum on the ball, and they're serving it in spots to where the Jaguar fielders cannot get to them. And it's just an all-around good strategic attack program that the Bobcats are utilizing here.
Pitches a ball to Miller, 1-0. Miller in this game is hitless. He reached as a result of being hit by pitch to lead off the third, but was caught stealing. And he's also grounded out and flown out in this game. Grounded out to end the 5th, flown out for the 2nd out in the 1st inning. The 1-0 misses for a ball, 2 balls, and no strikes.
And if you're par there, that's what you want to do. Keep the ball low and exploit the inside corner and make the Bobcats hitters pull their hands in and try to create a hit off of their hands being in and not able to utilize their power.
Swing and a miss on the 1-1 pitch to Miller. Count 1-2. Here with 2 outs. Jaguars had 2 strikes on Gentry with 2 outs, and he singled. They also had 2 strikes on Holler with 2 outs, and he also singled. The 1-2 misses, 2 balls, and 2 strikes to Miller.
This is a good setup pitch, though, because that does open up the lower inside corner for Parr to exploit if he wants to.
The 2-2 misses in the dirt, 3-2, and you'll likely see Gentry take off with the pitch. We saw Holler taking off on a 3-2 pitch from first in at bat to go, and he ended up on third as a result of Gentry's single. Full count on Miller. Now the Bobcats with 4 runs home this inning already. They had 2 runs that they scored in the first, now 4 this inning here in the 6th. 0 runs in innings 2 through 5. 10 hits total in the game. And the 3-2 pitch is fouled away. 7 of those 10 hits this inning, all in a row. And that streak is still active.
You may see Parr try to challenge him one more time, give him one more dose of that fastball in an attempt for him to either strike out or foul it off, and then come back with an all-speed pitch to see if he can close out this at-bat.
3-2 pitch, grounded up the middle, and that's another base hit. 8 straight base hits for the Jaguars, and on his way to third on another hit and run is Gentry, scoring from third Holler, and it's 7-1. And the Bobcats have officially batted around this inning. That's going to bring up Wesley Womack. He's the only batter in the lineup for the Bobcats that has not recorded a base hit this inning. He grounded out to start the inning for the first out. Since then, 8 straight base hits. And his spot is back up here in the 6th. Have you ever seen an inning where 9 consecutive base hits happen? As a result, every single player in the on the team gets a base hit in one inning. Has that ever happened that you've seen?
Yes.
I'll have to check that.
Yeah.
That has happened that you've seen.
That I've seen here. It was, I think, either the first or second year I was doing this for the Jags.
And that misses for a ball to Womack, 1-0. His ground out to start this inning, seems like an eternity ago, was his second ground out of this game. He also grounded out in the 3rd inning, and he doubled and scored a run back in the 1st. The 1-0 misses. Correction, it's a called strike. On the outside corner, count, ball and a strike. Womack is a .418 hitter, 3rd on the team.
And former head coach of the Jags, Jason Eller's got to be loving what he's seeing because he's at 3rd
Absolutely.
right now, coaching up the Georgia College Bobcats. And then you also, as we mentioned earlier too, Nolan Belcher, who has lived in Augusta for a long period in his life, has got to be happy with the performance of Charlie Hecht here tonight as well.
Happy homecoming for him. And one of the great things about the game of baseball is there's a lot of good happy homecomings in games for teams. It's a lot, definitely a lot happier than other sports that you see. 2 balls and a strike, the count to Womack, and the pitch misses for a ball. 3 balls and 1 strike now the count. On deck is Maddox, who doubled already in this inning. He scored a pair of runs in this game, including 1 this inning. 3 balls and a strike, the count. Here's the pitch, swung on, grounded to second, and Robertson tosses to second for the fielder's choice out, and that ends the inning, but not before 5 Bobcat players step on home plate and make the score 7-1 in favor of the Bobcats, with the Jaguars coming to bat. You're watching and listening to the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. We'll be back. Welcome you back here to Lake Olmsted Stadium in Augusta, Georgia. It's the bottom of the 6th inning. Jaguars coming to bat, middle third of their lineup. Due up, Jim Wagner will start it off. He has singled, scored a run, and struck out in this game. The Jaguars looking for a big bounce-back inning after surrendering 5 runs in the top of the inning. They trail at 7-1. First pitch Wagner sees in the gap. In left center field, a base hit. Wagner's going for 2, and he slides in safely with a leadoff double. And the Jaguars, they mean business. Second base hit of this game for the Jaguars for Wagner. He singled in the 2nd, scored a run, and now he has a double to his credit here in the 6th. That's going to bring up Timothy Gray, who also has a single in this game already.
Well, you realize that the opposite field approach has been working all game long for the Jags, and in that same instance right there, Wagner utilizes that same opposite field approach that he utilized the last time he was up to get on, and it's a jump start to hopefully a good inning for the Jags to try to come back into this ball game and creep up on this deficit that they have.
If they want to chip away, now is the time to begin that. Runner on second, nobody out. And a called strike.
Absolutely. And the trick is not to look at this as like to say, oh, we've got to score 6 runs in 1 inning. No, you still have 3 innings of baseball to play outside of this. So if you chip one here and score 2 or 1 there, you're right back in it. So all it takes is base runners, and as we mentioned, ABC baseball to try to manufacture runs to get you right back in the thick of things against a very vaunted and high prolific team coming into tonight's game with the #1 seed in the conference.
Two balls and a strike is the count on Timothy Gray. And here's the pitch. That misses for a ball. 3 balls and 1 strike. To Gray. He's the Jaguars' first baseman, hitting in the 5 spot in the lineup here tonight. 3-1 pitch. Misses. And that's a walk.
Man, oh man, was that an exquisite eye from Timothy Gray there. That pitch could have been called either way, but a very good eye from Gray lays off, and now the Jags are in business with a runner at second and first and the opportunity to garner 3 of those runs back.
Batter's Jay Penley for the Jaguars. He reached on an error and then advanced to second on a wild pitch. Was stranded there back in the 4th inning. Called strike, 0-1 to Jay Penley. Talked about how earlier on we talked how versatile of a player Jim Wagner is for the Jaguars. Wagner currently the runner on second. So is Jay Penley. Playing left field tonight. He can also pitch. Shows bunt, pulls back, it's a ball, 1-1.
And he's not the only one. I mean, Zach Goebel, who we're not seeing tonight,
Not yet, anyway.
Come in and closed out games for the Jags, and he's also a DH and can play first base. So an extremely versatile team for the Jags leads them in good shape going into years to come.
And he shows bunt. This time he gets a piece of it but fouls it away, and the count is a ball and 2 strikes. Jay Penley now likely be swinging away with 2 strikes. And if you're the Jaguars, even if it's a productive out, if you're down 7-1 in the 6th inning, you can't really afford to spend a productive out.
Right. Unless that productive out will get you some runs in. So you're looking at base hits here, and that's something you definitely don't want to see right there.
Penley swings and misses, and exactly what Blake is saying you don't want to see. What we saw there is him striking out. 1 out. That's going to bring up the designated hitter, Ty Hobbs. Hobbs trying to make contact for the first time tonight. He has walked and struck out. And, correction, Hobbs was his spot in the order, and he's going to be lifted for the pinch hitter, Zach Goebel.
Who we were just
talking about. I was like,
exactly.
Not yet, and here he comes into the game as a pinch hitter for the DH Hobbs. Goebel is just as versatile as Penley and Wagner. He's also capable of pitching. I wouldn't be surprised if either Penley or Goebel end up on the mound tonight from what we've seen in the past. If history repeats itself, we very well can see that.
Which would mean we would see a double switch at some point.
Goebel being the DH, if he comes in the pitch, it wouldn't require a double switch. However, it would if Penley came in.
Exactly.
Penley, the left fielder in today's game for the Jaguars. Ball, no strikes to Goebel. He fouls one back to the screen. Count even, 1-1.
I mean, the Jags have the right man up for the job. He was regionally ranked as the Peach Belt Conference's best player for a week, and also nationally as well. So they've got the right man up for the job and up for the task in Zach Goebel here, but he's fallen behind in a hole.
Ball and 2 strikes is the hole that he's in. Runner on first and second. Wagner on first, Gray on second, 1 out here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Misses 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jaguars have really struggled to get anything going against Height in this game. As I mentioned, going into this game, he was the team leader in strikeouts. He still is. He had 91 strikeouts going into this game. He has 5 so far tonight. Actually, looking more detailed at the stats, he has 1 strikeout so far per inning. This is the 6th inning, 6 strikeouts now counting, for a total of 97 in the game. And let's not forget the inning the Jaguars got a run against him in the 2nd inning where they trimmed the deficit to 2-1. At the time the Jaguars scored, they had the bases loaded with 1 out, a chance to do more, but they ended up stranding all 3 runners. Have done absolutely hardly anything offensively since. And the 3-2 pitch by Goebels fouled away. Count remains full. And let's not forget, after the RBI infield single that we saw by Alford that scored the 1 run, Trent Maddox line one to left field, and we saw Brendan Haller make an outstanding sliding play in left field for the Bobcats, and that really turned the game around. Saved several runs, and the Jaguars have not made any real serious threats since then.
No, but Goebels trying to do this with 1 out, and the worst thing here for the Jags would be a double play. So you want to try to execute either a ground ball through the holes or try to catapult one into left or right center field to give your team a chance.
And it's going to be difficult to get one through the hole against this defense in the Bobcats. That's popped up. That's going to be in foul territory. And the catch is made by the first baseman, Matthew Miller, who gave way, called off several teammates for out number 2. It's going to bring up Brent Alford.
Purcell had no clue where that ball was. You could see him just try to look around and try to find it. But a good call by the first baseman, taking over the ring generalship there, coming in, had the direct path to the baseball, and then putting the squeeze on the second out.
With 2 outs, Brent Alford, the batter. He has singled and flown out in this game. Pitch. Misses for a ball. 1-0. Jaguars are run off 5 hits. The Bobcats with 7 runs off 11 hits in this game. Each team with 1 error on defense so far. The 1-0 pitch to Alford. On its way. That's a called strike on the outside corner. And it's 1-1 to Alford. Alford has caught 2 runners stealing base in this game behind the plate on throws to second. The 1-1 pitch. Lined up the middle. That's a base hit. They're going to wave Wagner around third. He's got speed. He's going to score on an RBI single by Alford. To second goes Gray. It's 7-2.
Baseball 101 at its finest. Maneuver him over, get him in scoring position, and then the critical hit there to secure the second run. And the thing about it is, too, Alford did not do too much with that swing. Just put enough aluminum on it to shoot it back up into center field. A phenomenal piece of hitting there by Alford to ignite the Jags here for the first run since the second inning.
And we have a mound visit. The entire infield is brought in here for the Bobcats. It's the first one of these we've seen in this game, as Hyde has suddenly ran into trouble here in the 6th, similarly to Meeks running into trouble in the top half of this inning. And maybe if the Jaguars can force the Bobcats to go to their bullpen, trailing by 5, perhaps it could still be anyone's game.
And with Trent Maddox up, he is really good in clutch situations. So if you are the Bobcats, this is not per se the guy you want at the dish, because he can fight off pitches and do damage when he's down in the count in situations like this.
Fouled away by Trent Maddox, nothing in the 1. 2 outs this inning, runners on first and second. Maddox trying to extend the inning and flip the card to the top of the order, which will follow. And that's popped up in the foul territory. That's going to go into the seats. Back-to-back foul balls into the stands. That's several free souvenirs right there. No balls, 2 strikes here On Maddox, here's the pitch. That misses for ball 1-2. This game just a little over 2 hours old. 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th inning.
And the right fielder, Stallings, is playing in deep right field, looking to cut off anything over his head.
Maddox is a left-handed hitter, capable of pulling the ball to right field. That's another big reason why he's playing so deep.
And especially with that open stance, he has more of a tendency to turn on any inside pitches and shoot it down the line. That time, a good opposite field approach. He stays alive in the count.
And fouls him back to the screen there, like you said, to stay alive. Jaguars bullpen will likely be busy for the rest of tonight's game. And we'll see how that affects things going forward in this series. Game 2 tomorrow. Pitches the ball, snap throw to second. Just getting back in time is Timothy Gray to keep the inning alive. He had a huge lead off of second base. May have been wandering between second and third, but is just barely gets back in time ahead of the tag and avoids what could have been a disastrous third out.
He was dancing and leading to third base, and if he didn't really realize the throw that was made, but with that throw being in the ground on the grass, he probably would have been better to take off there and make it to third. But in the attempt to get back, it was closer than what Gray would like, but he's back in there safely, and the Jags get second life here.
Count is full on Maddox. The runners will go. A gapper will likely make it a 7-4 game. And the 3-2 pitch is a called strike. 3 on the inside corner and on the knees. Nasty pitch by Height, getting it literally to the bottom right corner of the strike zone. And that ends the inning. The Jaguars get a run across, but they strand 2, trail at 7-2. As we go to the 7th at the Lake. We'll be back. Welcome you back here to the top of the 7th here at the Lake. The score is 7-2 in favor of the Bobcats over the Jaguars. The new pitcher is Ben Parr or correction, the new pitcher for the Jaguars is Tony Jones. And to tell you all about him and to take you the rest of the way with the play-by-play, here's the man, the myth, the legend, Blake Collins.
I don't know about that now, but Tony Jones is...
Now you do.
Tony Jones is barreling pitches in. That last pitch was a strike right on the knees in the center cut of the plate. He's very rapid worker on the mound. And quickly after that first strike, you see a ball and then comes back and pitches one inside that's rolled over the top and deadlocks the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. And it's a quick first out, and Tony gets his first strikeout of the appearance.
And how huge is that? Striking out Maddox, who began the streak last inning. He doubled with an out last inning, which began the streak of 7 consecutive base hits by the Bobcats.
He's coming in working to the 4, 5, and 6, the bottom part of the heart of their order. And right now he's got Schmall to deal with, and he catches the corner on that pitch, leads off with a strike. Small undercuts that pitch and skies it out into shallow left field, where Maddox puts a kibosh on the second out.
The catcher, number 11, Brandon Purcell.
And now the roadrunner for the Georgia College Bobcats in Purcell. And we talked about his speed earlier. He is one of the fastest guys on the team and leads the team in stolen bases. And he shoots one off to the right in the concourse, and he's quickly trying to battle out of a no ball and 2 strike hole. And Tony's 1 strike away from closing the door here on the Bobcat part of the 7th. You can hear how fast he's firing those pitches in there, as that fastball had a lot of steam behind it and Alford catches that with a loud pop, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. And that ball's roped into left field, so a 2-out base knock for Purcell. And we mentioned his speed, trying to stretch a single into the double, and he does just that.
Boy, do the Bobcats love extra base hits.
That is...
A lot of them are just on line drives in this game.
Out of their 12 hits, the majority of their hits have been on doubles. That's at least the 5th or 6th double today. And now with 2 outs, there's no room for small ball. So, and with Purcell's speed, you would think a single would bring him home. That ball's skied into right, though. Moore's camped under it, brings down the 3rd out. So the double is the only harm in the inning that turns out to be extinguished, and we will head into the 7th inning stretch, and the bottom half of the 7th rolls right around after this.
This is our university. This is Augusta University. Close to 200 years ago, our foundation was laid in what at the time was a small, sleepy town. What began as a class of 7 students with a singular focus has grown into a body of thousands, pursuing excellence in health sciences, cyber, business, and the humanities. And now, we step into the future as a powerful, unified university with a singular symbol to represent us all. We are Augusta University. We are a family of colleges and institutions and a cutting-edge health system. And we are the heart of our college town. In the community, on the field, the court, and the course. We are the Jaguar Nation, bound by a new tradition and dedicated to making an impact around the world for the next 200 years. This is your university. This is our university. This is Augusta University.
Somewhat of a surprising move, the Bobcats usher in a new hurler in Bradley K-Mac after an exquisite outing from Kyle. And Robert, tell us more about it.
Well, Height ran into a little trouble last inning, even though he pitched well. Jaguars got a run against him and had a couple other runners on base. He was able to get out of it, and obviously the Bobcats decided, you know what, that's enough. Let's save him, you know, for later in the season and stuff. So K-Mac, he's second in the team in strikeouts after Height. So it's clear that at the start of the series, the Bobcats are throwing their best pitchers out early on, as is normal in this level of baseball on Friday night conference games. But they're doing the same thing even with their bullpen here. He has a 2.25 ERA this season and 73 strikeouts, which is second on the team to Height's 97. He had 91. Height had 91 going into this game and now has 97 on the season after 6 tonight. And K-Mac, a 9-1 record, and has 4 saves in, this is his 18th appearance of the season and his 16th appearance out of the bullpen. And talked earlier on, Height going into this game was 8-0 and is in line for his 9th win of the season.
K-Mac there was looking to strike out Billardello, but Billardello says, you're going to look to strike me out? I'm going to take you to center field, and just serves one up the gut where the pitch was placed. And Billardello, the speedster, is at first base for the Jags. And see if Robertson can mosey Billardello over to second, but he's down 2 strikes in the plate appearance. He goes the opposite field, and that ball hung up in to the sky for a very long while. It wasn't hit that hard, but the left fielder, Brendan Holler, clamps down on the first out. As you have Harrison Moore now looking to cause even more damage and see if he can get Billardello over to second or third. So to reset the table for you, the Bobcats ushered in their biggest inning to date, 5 runs, a couple innings to go in the top half of the 5th inning, and then accumulated 2 runs in the first to jump out to a 7-1 lead at the time. And then the Jags come back with a run last half inning to boost their run total to 2. And
Harrison Moore with outstanding speed on that one to avoid the double play.
extremely fast on the base pads. Has life yet again for the Jags, and this is not the guy you want to have an extra at bat against if you are Georgia College and Jim Wagner, because he'll make you work. He will make you work, and he is a tough hombre to get out.
He certainly will, as let's not forget, he singled and scored a run back in the second, and on that at bat where he singled, he had already worked the count full beforehand.
So the Jags are trying to elevate their hit total past 7 hits. See if Wagner can do that right here. Swings over the top of a sinker there by K-Mac. One ball and 1 strike. 2 down. Target acquired. Target applied. Pitch in the same location. Came back at the same result. K-Mac fires. Fastball elevated a touch, and Wagner too far behind on that pitch and swings right through it. And that will usher in the top half of the 8th inning. As the score still stands, 7-2. The Jags look to shut the door and give their offense a chance to reboot and come back in this game.
So head on over to the concession stand in right field and pick up something to eat or drink. Leading off third baseman number 1, Garrett Green.
Jones will amp up the top half of the 8th inning, squaring off against Garrett Green. In the first pitch Green sees, he elevates out to left center field. That's fairly deep, but Penley sprints under it for the first out. And that'll give way to the number 9 hitter in the lineup for Georgia College, Brendan Holler. So he shows bunt, then brings the bat back and doesn't offer. Ball number 1. He's been tested out in left field. Made the second out last inning, and then also, or this bottom half of the last inning for the Bobcats, and then also made a diving catch earlier on in the game that was a splendid catch to rob the Jags of extra pressure put on Height. and then also saved a couple of runs because if my recollection serves me correctly, the Jags had the bases loaded in that instance. Power checks his swing, but cannot check his swing as the umpire deems he went around. We check with the field umpire out at first base. Power stands back in and stays in the count. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Tony winds up and fires. That pitch is elevated high, got under it just a tad, and another chance for Penley. Second chance this inning, second out recorded. And now that will flip over the lineup card for Cal Gentry. The shortstop awaits his pitch. Tony meets him with a first pitch strike, connecting to the outside corner. Second pitch on target, but just a tad outside. Decides to ramp up a fastball there, and he gets a foul off. So it's 1 ball and 2 strike. Jags have 2 outs on the inning, looking to exit the 8th just like that on a splitter dying down, and Gentry swings over the top. So no harm, no foul as we enter bottom 8. Jags look to amp up the offense to try to climb back in. We'll see what happens. So the Jags come back with Timothy Gray, the first man due up here in the 8th, and he's already down a strike. And that ball out of K-Mac's hand is laced into left center field. A strong start to the bottom half of the 8th inning. 2 pitches in, and Gray's on first.
Gray has reached base now for the 3rd time in this game. That's his 2nd single. He also drew a walk. He's been stranded his first 2 times, however, looking to put a foot down on home plate here at some point.
Jay Penley's looking to move him over, and he gets a strike. Doesn't take the bat off the shoulders there. K-Mac's offering. Splitter down low. Low and away on that, so it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Misfires upstairs this time, as now where Penley was in a pitcher's count, now he's in a hitter's count, 2 balls and 1 strike. Even everything back up at 2 after that swing and miss. So we're back to square one. You've seen a fastball, you've seen a splitter, and you've seen somewhat of a changeup. K-Mac's offering. Fastball barely inside. May have hit the knob of the bat. Penley staying alive. Penley again is fighting for his life at the plate, and he's giving K-Mac all he can handle in a good battle. And another great pitcher's pitch he's spoiling. That's the second pitcher's pitch this at bat with 2 strikes on Penley that he spoiled. He's saying, you're not going to get one over easy on me. As he's in protection mode. Froze him solid right at the knees with a breaking ball. Breaches right over the outside corner for the strikeout. So a good battle, but resulting in K-Mac the victor. And now, with 1 out, Zach Goebel is walking up to the dish. And Goebel looks at a first pitch curveball that curves just below the strike zone. K-Mac, and that ball explodes off of Goebel's bat. It's in deep left field, at the track, at the wall, but not far enough as Holler corrals a loud second out. Goebel gave it a ride as far as he could without going over into home run territory. But it results in a loud second out. So now, you got K-Mac in control with 2 outs. And a throw back to try to get the Jags napping at first, but no avail. And now it's Alford, then you'll have Maddox at the dish. Alford's very disciplined in his own right and looks at a fastball over the inner half of the strike zone. K-Mac delivers. Good dropping action on that pitch, as you've got 1 ball and 2 strikes. question remains, will Gray be left stranded at first for the third time? In that instance, no, we won't, as the count continues to escalate as it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. The juice count now at 3 balls and 2 strikes. And Alford, we talked about the discipline, Robert. He's worked himself back into a full count. If you're K-Mac here, you don't want to try to be too perfect. Inside fastball, tremendously inside, but it'll get another chance to swing away as that ball falls right in front of the catcher. Purcell, even with his speed, at the rate that ball was dropping, he couldn't catch up to it.
That was all-out speed and a near collision as Purcell and Green both were giving chase at catcher and third base and could have collided, but they were able to pull back once they realized they weren't going to be able to catch it.
And he tried to check his swing, did Alford, but the home plate umpire calls him out on it, and the bottom half of the 8th comes up empty for the Jaguars. We'll see what the top of the 9th holds for the Bobcats after this break. The 9th inning kicks off with the 2, 3, and 4 men for Georgia College entering the heart of the order after Miller. And with the lights on bright, Jones is still out there. He hadn't given up any damage since he's entered into the game. And he's looking to continue to thwart this prolific Bobcat offense. Second strike acquired by a splitter that Miller swung right through. O2 pitch. High and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Tries to edge out the outside corner, but barely beyond. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And that ball's chopped foul. Wagner fields and throws right back to Jones. Jones, a little bit of sinking action there. Runs the count full. 3 balls and 2 strikes. And you can chalk up another victim in the SO department as Miller walks back to the dugout without taking the bat off his shoulder, and yet another strikeout for Tony Jones. First pitch that Womack sees, it hits him right in the midsection.
The center fielder, number 2, Logan Maddox.
So with Womack running at first, it gives way to Logan Maddox. And remember, 3, 4, and 7 all have very good averages, as 3 and 4 has captured the lead in the batting average department in the Peach Belt Conference. Just to update you, that is that wild pitch allows Womack to settle in at second without a throw. We've got, coming into this game, Schmall, who is on deck after Maddox with a 423. Garrett Green, who's in the 8th slot tonight, also with a 423. Warmack with the lead off second, gunning for third, has to go back because of the foul ball. Third in conference, and then the guy at the plate in Maddox is 6 with a 404 batting average. That ball's punched into the ground. It's short. Maddox tries to corral it and uses his body to knock it down. It escapes him, and just like that, you have a runner on second and first for Nate Small.
Number 7, Nate Small.
Jags have one man retired in the inning, and that was Miller on an SO. Throwing it back a little old school with the SOs. It's also known as a K. And that ball's crunched into the ground by Robertson, and the 8th run trots home for the Bobcats.
And another successful hit and run. We've seen several of those by the Bobcats as Maddox gets all the way from first to third. We saw that twice in the 5-run 6th inning, and that was during the stretch where the Bobcats had 7 consecutive base hits, and now we see that again here. And those extra bases sometimes make all the difference in the world.
Now a man the Jazz can ill afford to let migrate on base, and the catcher Brandon Purcell as that ball scoots away from Alford, and you have Schmall at second. So 2 runners now in scoring position for Georgia College, and they're looking to extend this game out of reach for the Jags. The Jags are down by 6. Infield is venturing in to cut off the run, and the infield playing in calls that ball to scoot past Wagner on a rifle past third base, and Georgia College continues their onslaught here in the latter innings, and it's 10-2.
This game was 2-1 with 1 out in the top of the 6th.
8 runs from the 7th inning on for Georgia College. 5 in the 7th, and 3 here now, and 2 in the 8th. So Purcell at second off of that double. And Brant Stallings is up. And he skies one into right center. And the speed of Moore rushes under to make the catch. And 2 men are gone here in the 9th inning.
And because of Wagner's error on that ground out, or correction, Maddox's error on the ground out, and now that that was the 2nd out, any runs scored after this, from this point forward, this inning will be unearned. And they did a little appeal there, thinking maybe Purcell took off a little bit before the catch was made. Ruled safe, so they say he took off afterwards. Obviously, the Jaguars thought he may have taken off a little early.
And just as we say that, the next pitch is conked into left field, and the 11th run comes across as Green comes through in a big way.
Left fielder 17, Brendan Holler.
Brendan Holler now at the dish. And we've seen that happen in the majors just as recently as the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners. There was a play in which I believe the center fielder made the catch, and they were checking to see if Carlos Correa, who plays short for the Houston Astros, left before D. Gordon caught it, and he did not. So that has come into play, and it's not worked out, but it's not that often either that you don't see that. You see that a good bit. It just didn't turn out in that situation or here for the Jags with Purcell leaving early. And Tony again trying to battle out here. He was up 2 strikes. Now he's got a ball to Holler. You've got the shortstop, Cal Gentry, on deck. And that ball's chopped to short. Maddox take the short route and step on second. And the inning is in the books, but not before the bleeding continues with 4 runs in the ninth. It's not out of the realm of possibility that the Jags can come back down 11-2, but they have some serious work to do. We'll see what happens on the flip side. The Jags' last hope in the ninth is in the hands of Maddox Billardello, as Maddox chops one over to third base, and quick transfer out of the hand of Green over at third base, and the first out is quickly on the board. So after Billardello, it will be Robertson on deck for the Jags. And Billardello, first pitch curveballs, you don't really see that often, but when you do, it can be very effective, and that's the way that pitch was there. Curveball froze Billardello in his tracks. And K-Mac has 2 strikes quickly on Billardello.
K-Mac is the team leader in just about every statistical category for a reliever for the Bobcats. He came in the 7th inning, looking to go 3 innings to close this one out. Not a save situation, however. But still trying to close this one out and the rest of the remainder of the Bobcats bullpen here in this one.
11 runs on 16 hits and 1 error for Georgia College. 2 runs on 8 hits and 2 errors on the night for the Jags, trying to get some sort of offense going here in the 9th inning to try to climb back into this game. As Billardello chops one over to short. He's speedy, you gotta hurry. And Gentry stayed calm and collected through that, transferred it well, fired over to first for the second out. And now the last hope rides in the bat of Mason Robertson up at the dish. Now for the Jags, Mason has come up in situations where it has been critical, and he's put some good at-bats together. That time, the first pitch he skies up into the on-deck circle of Georgia College, and Purcell puts a squeeze on the final out of the ball game. And Robert, seeing as how the Payne game was so successful for the Jags, they came in with a lot of promise, and they held this high-powered offense, at least early on, to 2 runs, which was a win in of itself for the pitching staff. But then, as the game drew later on and drew to a close, Georgia College started to bring that high-powered offense to life.
Well, they absolutely did. They figured out the Jaguars. They got to Matt Meeks, the starter for the Jaguars on the mound, who was outstanding in his 5+ innings of work. They got to him, and then they got the Jaguars to their bullpen, which is one of the big weaknesses of the Jaguars, and then they exploited that and pulled away even more. Jaguars did a great job keeping it close early on, and it was during the 6th inning when it was 2-1, and Blake, you're like, this is a pitcher's duel, and then they pulled away. And Georgia College ended up at the end basically doing what they've done all year to teams. Nothing new after all that.
Outside of the 6th inning, the first 5 innings was a win for Matt Meeks, even though he was trailing. To hold this offense to only 2 runs coming in was a dandy of a performance. Then he started to lose a little bit of his command and location, and that's what kind of set him off. But then it was a number of things. The bullpen came in and shut the door a couple of times and held Georgia College at bay, but then towards the tail end of the game, it just was all hands on deck and lightning from the aluminum bats of Georgia College, and they wound up with 11-2 victory.
Well, yeah, they absolutely did, and we'll see how the Jaguars are able to answer back tomorrow. It's a brand new game. Look forward to it. 2 o'clock Eastern Time, first pitch here at Lake Olmsted Stadium for Game 2 of a 3-game series. And after the Jaguars, they were shut out recently 3 games in a row. That streak ended on Wednesday in dramatic fashion, winning 17-3 in Payne College. Let's see if we can see the same Jaguars team we saw on Wednesday tomorrow.
Absolutely. And hopefully it'll be good weather like it was tonight. Picture perfect for a game. Unfortunately, the Jags could not pull out a victory. Georgia College tacks on another victory all to their 31-8 record, and we'll see what tomorrow holds. I mean, the Jags can come back tomorrow and then salvage the 2nd and 3rd game and win 2 out of 3, and that would be a huge and gigantic momentum swing for the Jags if they can do that, with the momentum coming in strong today with that 17-run victory over Payne on Wednesday.
Oh, it absolutely will, and a big confidence booster going into the final week of the season. It's hard to believe what we're looking into the final week of the season next week as they get ready to travel to Claflin next Wednesday, and then a 3-game series against Lynn University next weekend here at the Lake, and that closes out the 2018 campaign. So it would be a huge confidence booster finishing this season as well as going into next season for this young team, a promising 2019 season upcoming for the Jaguars as well.
That'll wrap things here up at the Lake. Thank you so much for tuning in, for all you watching around the world, and for all you watching at home. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday night, and we will see you right back here, square and ready to go at 2 o'clock sharp tomorrow afternoon.